And just in case you're asking yourself, is this just going to be something else that doesn't work, or am I going to be frustrated? Yeah, absolutely, you can do this. I'm going to introduce you to a concept. This is a brief introduction to source code. Source code is the magic. Source code is the magic, unique energy of you, your power, your potential. Quick introduction to source code. I want to tell you about something called the Vincent Clause. The two circles. Here's these two magical circles. You've got the small circle in the middle, bigger circle on the outside. When you're in your source code, you're in that bigger circle. When you're not in your source code, you're in the smaller circle. Okay, that's a simplistic way of looking at it, but it's really important. Why is it called the Vincent Clause? Well, Vincent Van Gogh was probably one of my favourite painters, one of my favourite artists, if not my favourite artist. Anybody who thinks they've got challenges with self-esteem or self-doubt or not knowing if they're clever enough or good enough, Vincent was the king of that. So troubled, so unsure of himself, so low on self-esteem that he lived in that small circle. And there's famous stories about how his paintings were gorgeous and so amazing, yet he was troubled. He was wondering if they were actually any good. And he would sell his paintings, famously, to the tavern owners. He would sell his paintings for the cost of a room for the night, or for a meal, a hot meal, or a couple of drinks, and he would basically just give them away. And what was, the worst thing about it in these stories, the tavern owners, they didn't even want the paintings. They famously put them up on the wall with another 20, and they didn't want any of them. They just thought he was a nice guy, and they wanted to look after him, so they gave him some food, swapped it for a painting. Now, the same painting, so he's in the small circle there. Now, in the big circle, 100 years later, some art dealer is selling those exact same paintings that were worth the cost of a hot meal at best. Now they're being sold for $67 million or $89 million. That's the big circle. And here's the thing, they were always worth that. And when you're hanging out in that small circle, doubting yourself or not being sure of your talents or your potential, that big circle's calling to you. That big circle is calling out to you. That's your source code. That's where we're going. You need to be in the big circle. And when you start to live in that energy and you start to live in that philosophy, everything grows. Because if you're not in the big circle, you're not going to grow the life you want or the life you're capable of. You're not going to grow the business. You're not going to grow the success. You're not going to really uncover your true path, because you're going to hide it from yourself because you're in the small circle. So we need to get you in the big circle as soon as possible.